Alright, here's the project we're going to be doing. I do not have a pattern for this, so as you watch this DVD, this is I will be showing you step by step how to do it so you can create your own. Very, very easy, simple project. You can do it as detailed or as little detail as you want. So let's get going on this. I think you're going to love it. Alright, this is the project that I'm going to be showing you how to do today. It's turning this terracotta pot into what looks like a pair of blue jeans with a belt. It's very easy. I won't be doing a pattern for this, so all your steps will be right here on the DVD, and it's very, very easy project to do. You're going to be so shocked how easy it is. So I'm going to be working on this size for the video. This is just like a little 4-inch one. That one that I had was I think it was a 8 or a 12-inch pot. I think it was a 12-inch pot. Okay, so what you want to do to get this ready to go is to take a damp cloth and wipe inside and out and get any dust from shipping and handling and being against other clay pots and, you know, just general dust off of it. Now if you've got any really rough edges on it, like sometimes down here on the bottom it will be kind of rough, you can just take some fine sandpaper and sand that. This sands very easily. Okay, and then again you will just take your damp cloth and wipe any of that dust away. Okay, now we're ready to go with it. The first thing that you want to do, especially if you're going to put a plant in this, is to seal this first. That will keep the water, if you put a plant in this, from absorbing into the clay. Especially if you have lime in your water, it will start turning the pot white down in here. So you don't want it to cause your paint to start cracking and break off. So you want to seal it really, really good. Inside, out, the whole thing. And what I use to seal mine is any kind of decoupage medium. You can use Mod Podge. This is Americana decoupage. I use a mat. You're going to brush it, actually not brush it on. I use one of these sponges that you can buy at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. It's just an artist sponge. You get 3 in a package. And I dampen this sponge, and then I just spread this all over, inside and out. And we will also be using this sponge to put our base coats on. So you'll want to have one of these sponges. You can use a foam brush if you don't have a sponge. That will work just as well. If you're doing a small pot like this, you could use a large brush. But if you're doing anything larger, I would recommend either one of these sponges or a foam brush. So I'm going to get this damp. Just going to wring it out really good, and then I'm going to lay it on my paper towel and kind of get any excess water out of it. Okay, I'm just going to take my decoupage medium and dump some out right here on my little paper plate here. Wipe up the edge because I don't want the lid to get stuck. This is like a glue. So we're just going to go inside. The reason that you want to do 2 coats is because it's very easy to miss spots. Even down there in the very, very bottom, you want to make sure you get every place. So we do 2 coats to get it really good coverage. Inside and out. It will dry fairly quickly because it's just a glue basically. So when I do the outside, I just go around it like this. I just kind of work it in at the bottom. You can already tell the difference in the color between what's got the glue and what doesn't. So it will definitely deepen the color if you wanted to keep it this natural terracotta color, which this is what on this one I just left it its natural color. This is just a coaster that I made a set of those coasters that I use in my home. And very, very easy. Alright, so I'm going to finish up this coat, get my second coat on, then we're going to come back and start our base coats. Okay, I've got it completely dry now. Our first coat that we're going to put on here is going to be just plain white, snow white. Now on my original pot, I don't remember what color I made the blue jean part. So I'll give you some choices that you can go with, and you can decide what shade of blue that you want your jeans to look. On my original pot, I painted the inside of it as well. Now if you're going to put a plant in this, you don't have to do that. But I use mine to set out for decoration. In the fall I put a mum in it that's already in a pot, so I just set the mum down inside the pot itself, and I've used it for many years and water my mum, and it stays outside in the weather, you know, for at least a month. I put it out at the end of September and probably bring it back in right around Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving. So actually it stays outside a couple of months, so it will hold up pretty well. So our first color is going to be Snow White. So you're just going to apply it the same way with your sponge. For this video I'm not going to do the inside, so I can move it along more quickly. Just take your sponge, load it with your white paint, and you just put it on the same way that you put that decoupage medium on. All the way around it, even the bottom. And you're going to put 2 coats of white on there. Okay? Okay, my first coat is just about dry, so I'm getting ready to put my second coat on. But I wanted to tell you that, now this is optional. You can go around again that way, or you can go up and down like this to make it look a little more textured. It's not really going to matter, because when you put the blue paint on there you won't really see it, so it's gonna go with however you end up putting the blue paint on, is how the kind of fabric that your jeans will end up looking, I guess. So I think around the band I'm going to go this direction, because it would have the fabric grain probably going different. And it's okay if you don't get absolute complete coverage. You just want to cover up the majority of that orange. Oops, not drop it like I just did. Okay, don't forget the bottom. Okay, now we're going to let this second coat get dry, and then we're going to start applying some blue. Alright, I've got my white dry on here, so I wanted to show you the options of blues that you could use. I've got 3 colors here. I've got Admiral Blue, I've got Deep Midnight Blue, and I've got Navy Blue. So the choice is yours. I'm really not sure what color I did on my original piece over there. It was either Navy or Deep Midnight. I might try a little bit of Admiral Blue on this one and see if I like it. It might be too bright. It really just depends on the color of jeans that you want to have. Now, I did not mention, but each time that you switch, like when you switch from your decoupage to your white paint, you need to wash your sponge. And when you go from your white to your blue, you need to wash your sponge out, or your brush, whatever if you're using a foam brush, because you don't want those to mix, especially the blue and the white. Okay, I did not paint the inside this one, as I said. So now to start this one, you're going to do the exact same thing, only you don't want to have a whole lot of paint on your sponge. You just want a little bit, because these are going to be faded out jeans. Now you can go around like this, which is what I did in my original one, or you can go up and down like this. Now I need a little bit more water in my sponge, so I'm just going to dip it into my water. There we go, much better. We want it to be a watery, like glaze on here. The only area that we will have an issue, if you're going up and down like I am, is right there on that rim. So I just quickly wiped over that. Hope I'm keeping you on camera here. So because this has so much water in it, I can continue to go over it until I am happy with that. Let me go ahead and paint the bottom here. Okay, get my finger inside. Now for this edge, I'm just going to go this direction. If your paint is not moving and it feels dry, then get a little bit more water, because you want it to go on in a wash. Okay, so that's just one coat on there. Now I'm going to let this dry, which it will dry very quickly because it's mostly water, and I'm going to come back and add in just some random places some darker areas to make it look more washed out. So no, it's not dry, so I'm going to have to let this dry a minute. Okay, I've got, this is dry. Like I said, it's mostly water, so it is going to dry very, very quickly. So now I've got a little bit more paint on my sponge, and I'm just going to go in and just create some random, like dark patches within the fabric. I'm just kind of smoothing it out there because I don't want it to be all watery. And you can repeat this as many times as you feel like you need to get, now this up here we won't really see, so I'm not going to do too much up there because we're going to have that belt there. So I might do a little bit on the edges because the belt won't come all the way. So it's just some random darker spots. And if you don't like the blue that you've put on here, when you go to do your second coat, then just pick one of the other blues. Just you know, make sure you do thin washes, because if you don't like it, then you can fix it pretty quickly. Alright, now I'm just going to tap a little bit harder and get some really dark random spots on here. Just going to kind of smear them a little bit so they're not quite so stark. So I'm just using more of the water edge of my sponge here. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with how that looks. I think it looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to let it dry, and we're going to start adding a little bit more detail. Place the pockets and get it looking more like a pair of jeans. Okay, I've got all my blue paint on, and don't forget to paint the lip of your flower pot if you brought white paint all the way up into there. So now we're going to mark off for our seams. So I've got my T-square here, and I'm coming about 2 inches from the inside rim. I'm just going to mark a line right here where my T-square stops. stops. You can see what I'm doing there. So I marked a line here and a line here. Okay, now we're going to do it the opposite direction. So we want to come about 2 inches. Bring it in just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to mark a line on this side and one where it stops on this side. Okay, so I should have 4 lines. I'm going to look and see if they look like they're pretty equal in distance, and they do. These will become our seam lines now. So I'm going to take my T-square and kind of line it up. Actually, I think I'll get my flexible ruler. Alright, I've got several different sizes and kinds of flexible rulers. Whatever size that you have is good. So I'm just going to use this small one here. I'm just going to line it up, kind of eyeball it, make it look straight. Hold it on there. You don't have to be really too perfect with this because the lines won't be right next to each other, so you won't see them that well. So I'm going to line that up. Just eyeball that it looks straight. Okay, next one. Oops. It's a little slippery, this round thing. Okay, and one more. So we've got all 4 of our lines on there. So 2 of these lines will be the side seams, and then one will be the front seam, and one will be the back seam. So it's up to you. You can take some tape, some Scotch tape, and tape down right beside each one of these lines. You can mark it again with your ruler. So I'm just going to come a little ways off of each one. I want to make sure you press it down firmly in that bend right there. Okay, and then I'll put a piece on the other side. About the same distance from that line. I can get you on camera so you can see what I'm doing here without getting my head in the shot. You can make your side seam as wide as you want for your style of jeans. I've got, looks like about 1/4 of an inch. Straight there. Just this one. I really got my tape pieces very long. They don't need to be quite this long. Okay, I'm going to press them down really good, especially right there where it bends. Okay, now you can use a brush, or you can just use some kind of makeup sponge or something similar. Palette out here. Okay, I'm going to take straight Admiral Blue. Okay, and I don't want to use a sponge. I don't think. I'm going to use a makeup sponge. Oops. Okay, just one of these makeup sponges. I cut it down as I use it. You know, so I can use it until it's pretty much all gone. So I'm going to use this little narrower edge right here. I want to make sure that tape is really tight on there. And I'm just going to tap this right where that tape is. Go up on your lip there. Be very careful right here because I don't want it to get underneath. I'm just putting a couple of quick coats on here. It doesn't take much. Okay. And I'm just going to take my tape, peel it off, and I've got a side seam. Now you don't have to have it be that dark. It is a little dark, so I may take some white and just kind of gently brush over that. Now I also wanted to tell you that if you get your blue on your pot too dark, you think the jean part is too dark, then you can just take some white paint and brush a little bit of that white paint over it. So I'm just taking a damp brush, so I'm just going to kind of glaze this over it, soften it back a little bit. It's not quite so dark. Just lighten it up just a little bit. Okay, now when you do your seam in the front, it will be a little bit different. You're going to want to draw a flap for your zipper. So I just, depending on how far I want to go down, let me show you what I mean on this one. So we want to draw this flap right here. Okay. So you just come down on your jean pot here, get you up in the camera with your white pencil, and then just come out and just go straight up. Okay, and then this is the part that you're going to want to shade a little bit darker, but then you're going to create a seam right off of that, a narrow one, and then a wide one down the center. Okay, so one this size down the center, and then a narrower one right here along this line right here. Okay, now you don't have to tape it off if you don't want to. If you just want to take a small flat brush and just paint your line in, you know, you can go for it that way. Okay, then we're going to draw some pockets back here on the back section. So you can determine how high up they are and what style they look like. They can be rounded like this. They can be pointy on the bottom like this one is. You just want to make two of them about the same size. You can also do this for a girl, and some of those jeans that have the rhinestones on the pockets, you could glue some rhinestones on there and create that look on there. You could put some rhinestones on the side seams. You can put you know, scroll work on the pockets. You could do that on the guys, because on the guys' jeans they have that too. So we may do that on this one just to show you something a little bit different. Now my husband likes to wear, he wears painter pants, and they have this loop thing on the side here where he can put a hammer or whatever. So you could add that on there on the side. You could put pockets down the side seams. You know, there's so many jeans that way. but we're going to get all of our seams painted in first. Okay, then we're going to come back and add some, well, we won't add the belt loops until we put the belt on, because we're going to have to paint right over this. And you can decide if your belt is black or brown. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of my seams painted on, and then we're going to come back and start adding some detail onto some of this. Alright, so I've got all of my stripes, or seams, I guess those would be technically seams. So now we're going to work on the front of the pot. This part right here, we're going to work on this part. So what I have done here is I've taken a water bottle and misted my palette and got water drops on there. So when I need water when I'm floating, I go pick it up on the side that I do not have the paint on. So we're going to start here. If I can still see my line, I'm using a size 12 curved flat. I'm going to zoom you in just a little bit. Hopefully I'll keep you on the camera here, holding it in my hand and painting. Might not be able to keep you on camera as well. So I want to float just next to this line that I've drawn. That's a little dark, so I'm going to just take a little bit of the paint off and get a little bit more water. I don't want that float to be quite that dark. So I'm going to go along the outside of this line that I've drawn. And this is the zipper cover that we're creating here. Now I've got the pockets on back here, and I want to do the same around those pockets. So you can have your pockets like I shown you earlier, to where they're curved like this, or they're diamond shape, or they're squared off. It really is going to be a personal preference. You can take a pair of jeans that you've got and look at the pocket and create your pocket to look like them. So I am just floating this paint completely around this pocket. Make it a little bit darker. Alright, I'm going to continue on this other pocket. Doing the same. I don't think my lines are perfect on this one, but it's just for demonstration. So don't think my pockets are going to be quite the same size. It doesn't look like. I think this one. Wash that line off. I need to bring it over just a little bit. They're not quite the same size, but that's okay. Now, if you're doing this for a girl, you could paint little roses on the pockets. Okay. Now, right here, for my front pockets, I want to draw these in like this. Try and keep them about the same size. Take our blue going to float on the inside of this line. I'm going to walk that up just a little bit. Okay, now on this one, I really hope I'm keeping you on camera. Some of that in a little bit there. Okay, so we're getting our front pockets started. They are not quite shaped the same either. Now on this one here, I want to create like a watch pocket on it. So I'm going to have my watch pocket come up about here. Draw this in with your chalk pencil before you start it. We'll make it a little bit easier. Bring it over about to here and bring it down. Oops, not on camera. There we go. Okay, there's my little watch pocket there. It doesn't have to come up that high if you don't want it to. If you want it to be down lower in the pocket, that's very easy to do if you just take the water and erase the paint where you made the top, reload your brush, and bring it down a little lower in the pocket. We'll add some detail onto that in a minute. While I have this bigger brush, I'm just going to load some washy blue of this blue, which I'm using Admiral Blue, and I'm just going to darken this whole section right here where the zipper will be. I want that darker. Pull some more paint out. This is just some thinned paint, kind of washy. Just filling in that zipper area right there. All the way up. Okay, so we've got that defined a little bit. Bit more in here because I want to make the pocket area seem a little bit darker. I don't want it to come down quite that low or quite that high. And I can do a little bit more here. Don't want to completely cover up our watch pocket there. Okay. Now on the pockets here, like I said, you can create any kind of design on these pockets that you want. So I'm just going to thin a little bit of paint down. I've got a small round brush, and to show you what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to go from this corner down, create a loop, and go back to that corner. Okay. So I'm just going to follow that design that I just put on there. This is just a round brush that I flattened out once I loaded the paint with it. This is a size 2, I believe. That's 1. It's 1 round. So I've got a little design going there. bit of detail on here. So let's get some white. Now before I do that, the white on here, on these pocket edges, I want to take this round brush. I want to get a little bit of thinned paint. I want to create a seam here. I think a little bit along this top edge. This is on the inside of the pocket. Now we're going to start creating some of the stitching on here. So I want to go to a 10-0 liner, some white paint. I'm going to thin it down to inky consistency. Now you can go to a smaller liner if you wish. And I'm just going to start creating stitching. Now I'm not going to worry too much up here because I'm going to paint a belt on there. So I'm just going to start my stitching down here. Just little stitch marks all the way down. You do both edges of this seam that you painted in with this thinned white paint. It should be about the consistency of ink, so it flows really nicely off of your brush. All the way down. Okay, we're going to have stitching on. I'm going to go up with one stitch up here because I think that will probably show underneath the belt, and then I can come back and put some more on the top. So we're going to go along on each side of this line here. Create our stitching. Go along this pocket here, this little seam that we painted on the outside here. I'm going to go on each edge of it. I probably should have made my seam a little bit bigger. This is a smaller pot here and I didn't want it to get too huge. Okay, each one of our seams, we'll start up here on the edge. We'll get the stitching. Okay, in our pocket. Up here at the top, we want to do, turn it this way so you'll stay on camera a little bit better. Where I painted that seam across the top, I'm going to do a double stitch up here. All the way across. Okay, and then down the pocket, I want to do just a single stitch. You can do a double one if you prefer. Just all the way around it. Okay, and on our design that we did here, we want to do some stitching. That's kind of thick paint. We don't want our paint to be quite that thick. that stitches out our pocket and everything nicely. So I'm going to have you go finish. Well, let me show you how to do the watch pocket here real quick. Now we're going to be putting little buttons on here. We want to do, get this a little bit, this way you can see it. Right here, a couple of stitch lines along the top. And then one down the edge here. And if you can see some of this edge, we'll also put a little stitching there. Okay. Alright, let's go finish up all the rest of our stitching on this. Okay, I'm using my compass and I'm creating my line where I want my belt to be. Up here at the top. So I've just come down about 1/4 inch from the top. And then, I don't know, probably a good inch down to here. So you want it to be about 1/4 inch on both sides of this lip, to have about 1/4 inch. So I just went ahead and marked that because we're going to paint that in. Now you can choose, just go ahead and paint right over wherever your buckle is going to be. But you can choose if your belt is brown or black. I'm going to paint mine in with black, so if you want to do yours, paint it in with lamp black. If you want to do a brown one, do like a milk chocolate maybe for the brown. But on this demonstration, I'm going to do a black. Alright, so this is just a small pot here, but I'm going to use this 1/2 inch flat brush. And I'm just going to start painting right next to my line there. I'm going over everything that I've got painted here. We'll come back and add our buckle, or our belt loops, after the belt is painted on. So if you don't feel like you can stay on that line very well, and you've got, excuse me, some of this green stretchy tape, you can put that on there and tape it off and use the makeup sponge or whatever to tap that paint on very quickly. I'm just going to brush mine on, so I'm going to go get that painted on. We're going to come back and I'll show you how I add the buckle and buttons and all the detail. Alright, I want to show you how I'm drawing my buckle on. So I just drew 2, hopefully, straight lines down this way. About 1/4 inch wide. You can make it wider. If you're doing a bigger pot, you'll probably want to make it wider. And then I just curved it at the top and brought it over to about the same place. Okay, and that will be our buckle right there. For your the thing that sticks through, that latches your buckle kind of. I'm just going to put it right here. I will eventually extend it over onto that after I paint the buckle, because we want it to come, you know, over that part. And then I want to create some like a loop here, a belt loop here that's on the belt, okay, that the belt will catch onto. Now you can have your belt come just nicely over here to this edge, you know, and round it off. If you want your belt to do that, you could, you know, make it pointed, and we could put metal on the end of it. On mine, I have it where it hangs, like it doesn't, it's a long belt, and so it hangs down here. Okay, but for this demonstration, I think I will just keep it one that comes out from underneath. And we'll just make it pointed. I'm going to bring it over a little bit farther than that. We'll just make it pointed. And then we'll put some metal on the end of it. So we're going to need to figure out where our belt loops are. So we know we're going to have one here where that comes through. So then we just want to create a few more down this. Just making some circles on there, okay? If you want the kind of belt that has circles all the way around it, you can do that. If you want some kind of detail on your belt, you can do that. I'm going to try and keep this as simple as possible for this video so that you can do it as quickly as possible. So the detail part is totally all on you. Whatever you want to create for a detail, certainly just have fun with it. So we are going to paint our belt buckle and this thing right here, and then we're going to create some buttons on all this stuff with antique gold. Use our little round brush. Got water on my ferrule here. So I'm just going to come up this line that I painted. Underneath the belt right there, and on this top edge. When this dries, I'll go back and erase any graphite lines that I have on here because I want to make sure that my belt buckle is about the same everywhere. I don't want those graphite lines distracting from that. Okay, now we want to create some little like buttons on here. So, and that one I just painted really big, but you don't want yours to be quite that big. So we'll have one down here. We can have some little ones on here. On the pockets, you might want some. Corners. Try to get them the same size. If you've got one of those dotting tools, that would be good to get them the same size. Okay, and right here. And right here. Now let's create some belt loops. So I'm going to keep this #1 round because I can make it flat. You can go to a small flat if you want. And we're going to have a belt loop here at the seam. I'm just using the straight blue that we used on here, Admiral Blue. Just keeping it across the belt. You can have them go in between your seams. I think on my original one I did all on the seams, but you know, it depends on how many belt loops you want on there, how big your pot is. So I'm just straight down the seams. These can actually be a little bit bigger than what your seam is. I think might give a better illusion. So I'm going to widen it just a little bit. That seems pretty wide there, so I'm not going to go wider than it is. Now I want one here. I think I will dip into a little bit of white and mix that on my brush there, and I'm just going to streak that down my belt loops. My belt loops are a little bit too dark for this. I want it to resemble the jeans that are on there. don't want it to be quite so dark. I want them to be faded. We'll do stitching on them as well. Okay. So what I want you to do is go and do the stitching on your belt loops. And put a second coat of paint on your buckle and all your buttons. I did want to show you as well, before I go to finish up here, to get my second coats on. If you want metal on the end of your belt, just paint that on with the gold. Okay. Alright, I'm working on my holes on my belt, and I've got a small little angle brush. It's 1/4 inch, and I've just taken some white paint and mixed a tiny bit of black in with it. And now I'm just going around the inside of those circles. Not all the same size, but that's okay. Let me erase some of my graphite lines here. Now, for this buckle right here, I want to take some of that gray, which was white, with a tiny bit of black in it. And I want to create this loop thing here. So I'm going to put this down each side of that. Take a little bit of black. I don't want these to be quite so filled up with the gray. So I'm going to put a little bit of black in the center of them. You need to be able to see that belt back there. Actually, I think with my white gray, it needs to be on the outside. Alright, I'm going to go back with my black and fill in these holes a little bit more. Good if I can make a circle. Alright, let's do a little bit of shading. some washi black. I'm going to come above the belt. We're going to go all the way around above and below this belt. You could also paint your belt a soft black so that when you shade on your belt, it will show up a little bit more. Okay, so we want to do that below it as well. This is really quick. I'm going to have to do some adjusting on our belt loops here. I just painted that shading right over my belt loop, and that was not good. My belt loops need to come down above and below the belt, so it looks like the belt is actually going through the loops. Let me take that blue, mix some white in with it. I'm going to bring this down below the belt and above the belt. Okay, then we'll shade around that. Keep it all the same width. Above it. That looks so much more like a belt loop. Your imagination can really go crazy, or just get a pair of jeans that you like and paint your flower pot to match. Okay, so we want our stitching to go up that far as well, above and below. So get some thin white, add our stitching. This is going to extend our belt loops, make them look longer. Now I want to take that quarter-inch angle. I'm going to take some of my blue. I want to shade around my, oops, not on it, but around all of my dots. both sides. I don't want it just shaded around one side. We're going to come back and put some gold on these. I got these little guys. Oops. I'm going to cover it up completely. There's just so much fun things, so many fun details you can add to a pair of jeans. Like, for instance, let me take this flat brush. I'll just show you something real quick that you can create. I've just got some thin paint on my brush, so I'm just creating some little wrinkles within the jeans. You know, like crease lines where you've, you know, worn them for a while and sat in them, and they've kind of faded around those. So it's just a tapping it in. You can do it on around your seams. It's just quick, easy. Just thinned paint. You don't want to take away all the pigment by putting so much water in it. But you can just do so much. You can create it on your pockets. You can create a hole in your pocket just by painting some white paint on there. Let me just create a little hole for you. So I'm going to take a little bit of white paint, and I'm just going to create, and you can put this hole anywhere on your jeans. So I'm just going to create a little bit of white in there. Okay, now I want it to look pretty ragged, so I'm going to take my 1/4 inch angle brush, load it with the blue on the toe. Okay, and around that white spot that I just made, I'm going to create like it's torn out. Okay, I'm going to skim over that with some blue so it's not quite so bright. You can even take your little liner brush and put some little frayed threads coming off of it. Some white ones as well. You know, just really make it look a little tore up space there. Okay, while I have this, while I have this angle brush, I'm going to get some black. I'm going to go around these belt loops where I created them a little bit higher. Okay, you could also do that with the blue. You don't have to do it with the black. You definitely want to give them a start and stop place. You could also go in and put the little gold buttons on here. do that real quick because that will definitely define these loops a little bit more. Dress up these jeans. Put the second coat on this real quick. Now I want to shade on my buckle before I put the gold on it. I've got some soft black here. I want to also shade around the buckle. So I'm going to take some soft black and mix a little bit of that blue in there with it. And I'm just going to shade. I don't know how well this is going to show up. I probably should have painted my belt. Soft black instead of black. That way, just for demonstration, so you could have seen it a little bit better. So I just add a little white to that just so you could see it. I could see my soft black, but I could see that it was not showing up on camera. So I'm going to do that next to my belt loops here. On my original one, I used soft black to do my shading stuff. This will also, you can dry brush some of this along the belt to make it look more weathered. So like all along here, you can just create a little bit of more of that up. A little bit of texture and fading on your belt. Kind of softening that back with my fingers. You can put some white in with the blue and create some different areas in there. Okay, this loop right here, I want it to be a little more rounded. Coming around that belt, because that buckle has to fit through there, so we want it to be past the belt just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to take a little bit of white and just streak it down that. Okay. Let's do some shading on our buckle. So I'm using soft black. I want to shade back here. Back here, that goes into that, around the end of it. Do along each edge here because that belt kind of fits next to it a little bit. I suppose that would be good if you were on camera. I probably better zoom back out because when I get a little too close, I get out of camera frame. So I've just done back here on these edges and around all the inside edge there. I'm going to streak a little bit of this. Actually, I think I'll just go onto that just a little bit on the edges. A little bit on there. And I want to take some black back here. And get a little shading back behind that so it looks like it's going under that buckle a little bit more. Alright, I'm going to also do that out here. I keep my corners rounded there. Alright, now I'm going to take my round brush and some white and a little bit of that antique gold. I'm just going to brush mix them together. I'm just going to streak on some highlight here. Up on that edge. This is just kind of like dry brushing. And this is just real quick. Let's shade down here on this. A little bit on that inside edge there. And we'll just streak some of this on here. Okay, now if you want to do this, you do not have to. This is just adding extra detail. But you don't have to do this. If you're looking for something really quick, I would leave this step off. But I'm just putting some of this soft black on the bottom. We're coming back with gold. So that's going to be probably our last step. We'll see. You could put a little bit up here if you wanted on these. These are so small, I don't know that you're going to see it once the gold is on there, so maybe just a little dot. You could use your liner brush or your small round and just do a little line on these if you want. Okay, I need a little bit more of this gold mix, which is white and antique gold, and this one. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit, I'm going to add a tiny bit more white to that. I don't know how much of this highlight will show through the gold when we put it on, but we want that buckle to stand out. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this on here. I'm just dabbing this now. Like I said, when we put our gold on, I'm not really sure how much of this you will still see. Okay. Our very last step that we're going to do is add some Emperor's Gold Deco Art Metallic. You can put as many coats of this on here as you want. If you want to do a silver bucket, then you would just change these gold colors to gray. I'm going to put this on. I have a feeling I'm going to have to go back because it's been so long since I did that other one that I'm going to have to add my shading back on here. So if you want, like I said, starting to say, if you want to do silver, then you can do grays. And then just add some silver metallic on here. For a girl, you can add little roses and flowers. kid, you could put something coming out of the pocket. At Christmas, you could put candy canes in the pockets or gingerbread. Alright. Quick second coat on here. I'm definitely going to shade around this again. So let me get my angle brush and my soft black. Make sure that's dry. Shade around that again. Back here. And I think a little bit here and here. Oops, that gold wasn't quite dry. I went through that. Okay, I think that for a quick project, it's going to be pretty done. It's a very quick, easy project. So here's the one that I just finished up. This is the one that I did many years ago. So I would just get a pair of jeans and look at them and play around with it and, you know, create something really cute and adorable. Now, the last thing I want to tell you is if you want to seal this, this is what I use, especially if it's going to be outside or have a plant in it. I like to use this inside and out. You could use the decoupage again to go over it, to varnish it, but I think this protects it a little bit better. This is what I put on my other one, and I've used that pot for years. So it's definitely a personal preference of what kind of varnish, if any, you want to put on it. But if you're going to set it outside, it's going to have something. And this is water-based, goes on very easy. I put it on with a sponge. It dries quickly. The only thing that you don't want to do is shake this, because you'll get all those air bubbles in there, and then it will transfer on when you put it on your piece. So you want to stir it with, you know, some kind of stick or dowel rod or something, and just get all that finish that settles down the bottom mixed into it well. But other than that, I think we've got a cute little finished project here to give as Father's Day. Cute idea for a baby gift, because if it's a boy, you can make these little jean things and you know, just make it cute, very cute for a baby. So good ideas here, and I hope that you enjoyed painting this project.